What we're looking at here is more low profile combative, so security, I need to escort this fucker out, or this problematic subject at a family gathering needs to go, and I'm probably the only one in the room that's going to be able to do it, so too much to drink. And I'm not looking at smashing or knocking him out, I'm looking at controlling him and ragging him out. Right? So what I want to create is this chest to back position where I have complete control of his head and he's back on his heels, I've got base, and I'm in a position to drag this fucker outside or escort him to the ground. Right? Now, if the subject is taller than me, as a lot are, right, the way that I would show you this drill is not how I would enter on the subject that was taller. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. Literally from here, I'm going to move to the flank, and I'm going to clip his head as I loosely slap here and clip his chin. It's kind of a vertical palm shot. And I'm going to tap his head ballistically, which will rack his crane. And then I'm going to bring his head to my shoulder, so I'm chest to back. Straight away, my seat clamp's going into his throat or his windpipe, and I may or may not take an eye, control his nostrils or the contours of his mouth. Now, in the context of me escorting him, I'm just going to maintain a position, let him know I can control his airway if I needed to, and put him down or drag him out. But if I needed to damage him or maul him from here, then I could take two fingers in this context and rip across an eye. I could take two fingers into the corner of his mouth and rip. Put my fingers in his mouth because he could bite, although I wouldn't just put my fingers in his mouth. I would slap and then put my fingers to where I needed before I could rip. So I'd be concussive and then rip. What I'm doing is controlling his mouth on contour. And I could pull this way on this, and then using this structure here, pull against his windpipe on here. I could take my thumb and drive it right up under his ear, or right up into his eye. Here on mauling. So I could rake, rip. I could bite soft tissue. I could gouge and rip. I could just maul him from here. I could also, if he started to become problematic, maintain an attachment of his face right back and put ballistic impact as I beat him down. The option, the scope here is control the head, put him down, control the head, escort him out, control the head, close his airway, control the head, maul him to fucking pieces and bite bits off him, or control the head, maul him, and then go back to impact to concussively take him out again. Right? So context would dictate content. If I approached him this way in the first place, rather than just hit him, it's because I'm caught very close quarters and confined. But the rules of engagement from where I find myself indicate that I need to control this person, not blitzkrieg this person. But on my initial entry to control, I'll concussively rattle the head and put him in a position where I can control him on the floor and then pin them on my knee or out of the exit, as we'll see. Right? If I do that, and that's all I need, then I've used a low profile use of force. If inside of that dynamic, this person explodes like a fucking firecracker, then that's only going to be short-lived. It's like a nitrous oxide injection in a car, performance car. It's a fast explosion for a short duration. So initially, when I enter and capture his head and get chest to back position, first priority is that I capture him securely. I've got the position I need before I go to the submission I'm going to employ, to quote the analogy of MMA, get position for submission. Right? I'm going to put myself in a position where I can dominate him, and now I want to be able to secure him so that I can maim or strike or access a weapon if necessary, uninterrupted. He can't stop me. I'm not just loosely holding his head so he turns and pulls out and now we're in a fight. I'm going to enter concussively. I'm going to control him in a position where he's going to find a very difficult move. And then I've got my violence volume dial on a very sensitive switch where I can just turn it up to any level I need if this person proves to be more difficult than I anticipated, right? So the action would be I'm flanking him tight and then I'm pulling his head to get chest to back. Now you'll see Craig's tall, so here I'll maul from here, control, take the throat, do all those things I said. If I found myself in a position where somebody was much taller than me, as I flanked, I would hit the groin and now take the head, which now gives me a position where he's less tall than me. And here I just managed to hook it on. I'll take an eye from here, I can crush the throat, bite, arm, or tear. I can even just slam him down or bounce the back of his head off my knee as I do so if I need to. Right? If I just need to, from here, take this subject down to the floor, I'll do that, and then I'll pin for control until my colleague comes and I might need to escort them out. What I want to show you is how you can get that entry part without fucking your partner up too much. Right? So here I've got a facial pad. Doesn't have to be, it could just be a focus pad. But the idea of a facial pad is so I can show you the contours of how I'm mauling. On a pad, it's flat, you're not going to get those contours. But what you can do to get the feel is wrapping clean film, layers and layers and layers, or a plastic bag and then clean film, so you get the feel of what it feels like to rip and tear something, right? But what I'm doing here is I'm turning this structure, turning it here as I frame. So I'm just moving here, bringing this to me, right? I'm not, because my partner's holding the pad, going to contort the pad in such a way that's going to fuck his wrist off. So where I'm looking to start is here, and where I'm looking to finish is here, right? So what his hand's doing is that, turn in a natural way and then go into my chest. So to get that from here, I'm just going to turn, and as I turn, push his head and pull it into me. Once I've pulled it into me now, imagine this is the throat structure, this is going to C-cups, going straight to the windpipe. From here I can take these two fingers in, rip this side, rip both sides, rip the mouth, rip both sides of the mouth. I could rip one eye and the throat, I could come up under the nostrils, I could bite small tissue target of the ear, the nose, the lips, the chin, and I can crush the throat. As I'm dragging him around, if it escalated from here, I could move to create traction, grabbing a hold of head or something, then go to impact to beat him down. Or if this was the head, and I decided to dump him down because he's now in this position, I could drop the knee in the lower back as I do it, or I could even bounce back and slow before I put him on the ground, or I could just put him on the ground. Nice and ginger. Drill again. And look at it from the perspective of you don't have a pad like this. Just grab a focus pad. Partner holds a pad. What's going to happen is that I'm going to manipulate that, and then that's going here. I'm going to turn, pull this in. As soon as I pull this in, I can rip, simulate, bite, crush, whatever else from here. Small shots, I can even then simulate. So I'm taking it down, bash them off, put them on the ground, position my feet. Here again, hold the pad, I flank, push, pull, end up here. As soon as I push pull, turn the structure, bring the back of the pad into my chest. This replicates somewhere from where now I can maim. Now when you maim, you're going to use two finger structure, curled, using the fingertips, not prints, pulling against something. This is strong, control with the mouth, eye, windpipe, ledge of bone, etc. Four fingers, even better. Pull across the windpipe as I pull the face the other way. Pull across the structure of the nose, or indeed how your chin rip. So my fingers are going to be used this way or this way, not one by itself. I could also gouge. So if I gouge, fingertips, not prints, going into corner of the eye, ripping across. If I wanted to do the most damage, sinking this in to the first digit. If I wanted to just pacify and get him under manners, I would use the flat of my thumb on the eye and just push it in. So he's recognising he's about to sustain retinal damage. So his central nervous system will recognise that, pull away from the source of agitation. Now I can just control. So this is a good way in which you can practice a secondary tool of maiming. So maiming is gouging, ripping, tearing, raking, shredding, much like Dimitri's method. He took it to a much more sophisticated level than I am here, just giving you the dynamics. Also biting, small digit manipulation. So I find a finger, get hold of the finger, snap it ballistically. Maiming is the art of ripping, gouging, biting, tearing and breaking shit off. That's what it is. And it's a secondary means to dominate. The thing about using it is as a transition to get to a distance from where I could strike. What does that mean? That means if I could have just struck him to impact if he knocked him out in the first place, that's what I've done. If not, then because I'm confined or he shot me down in some way, then I'll use secondary means, of which maiming is only one, in order to create distance and put myself into a position where I can now hit him and get to impact. So it's just a nice little way, one of the drills that we do for maiming. One more to recap. I'm here, turn, pull it in, break, rip, bite, and if you want, go